All right, hello. Welcome to Race Brain Podcast. My name is Rich Ryan, joined by Bracken Crocker and Jack Bauer. Today we are talking about all of the OCR championships. We're going to rank them in terms of importance or intrigue or interest. We're just going to talk about the OCR World Championships, and we're going to make fun of them probably, but we're also going to talk about what we are looking forward to this season. Before we get into that, there's been some lively debate in our group chat about the NFC Championship game, and I just want to set the table for the analysis you're about to get here. Jack Bauer was like, yeah, Washington's only about 140 miles from Philadelphia.
I never gave distance. You're making that up.
So therefore, Washington will probably win.
Like, no, I said it's
great.
an easier away game for them because they don't have a lot of travel time. If you're the Rams going cross country, look what happened.
Not about the offense, not about the defense, not about the coaching
We
scheme.
talk in OCR all the time. We talk about home field advantage. People who live near Abu Dhabi and have a shorter flight have tended to do better. They are near Philadelphia, so it's not going to be as big of a
great analysis.
Home field advantage has become one of the most overrated things in sports. Now, does it matter when crossing an ocean? Yes. I give it 2 time zones. If you're within two time zones, I don't think it matters. In fact, I think it's a focusing factor. I often think that sleeping in your own bed is not the advantage people make it out to be. There's a routine of traveling, get to the hotel, have your normal pregame, lock in. I'm not a huge believer in a lot of home field advantage.
Yeah, I think it's real in football.
There was there was some Vegas bet where
the playoffs.
I don't know, for like 10 years
Definitely
in a row, teams that had to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast were like won 5% of their games.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
3 time zones.
Yeah.
I'm talking 2.
But you got to factor the weather, like the Buffalo game, it mattered. The Philadelphia game, it really matteed against and now we got this young buck, not that young actually, Jaden Daniels. He's like 25, 24. I don't know if he's ever played a cold weather game. He's from Southern California.
He was at LSU and then like
Arizona State before that. Yeah. His first year was just in a dome. The Jack's like, it's close, so can't rule it out.
I'm just saying, home field when they pull the upset this week and Philly goes home devastated, and you and Jeff are whining in the comments and just laughing his way all the way to the Super Bowl. You think he'd go?
Just because you want the Eagles to lose doesn't mean like the geography of it means that they're going to lose. But it should be an excellent game. Maybe.
The colder and worse it is, the more that offensive line play and running backs determine every game. And that's
Barkley's
not
on
great
a different level
news
right now
for Washington.
Not great news for Washington.
I was talking about it with Braden.
Defensive line's really good on Washington.
Braden's gotten really into football the last 2 years.
Nice.
And like now is like a stat guy, and like he knows everyone in the league and everything. It's kind of cool to watch. But I said in my entire life of watching football, there's probably only been 4 or 5 backs that have ever had a season where every time they touch the ball, you're excited.
Tomlinson back
in the day. This could be a touchdown, like at any point. Like Terrell Davis's 2,000-yard year. I remember watching that thinking like he could go off at any point. And
CJ2K.
Priest Holmes had a day, had a year. CJ2K had a year. Tomlinson did within the 20, like in the red zone, but he was never anywhere, anytime back.
He got like 25 touchdowns in a year. So I guess that was remarkable.
But it was. Yeah. Adrian Peterson had like 3 years. But outside of that, there have been very few people, and we were kind of like pre-Barry Sanders. This is one of the most special seasons I've ever had, just in terms of you get excited to watch a handoff. That's rare.
And what are there 3 guys in the league who are every down back still? Like, and he's one of them. He's proven you can still do it.
Yeah. Last thing on the home field advantage. I was thinking about this with teams like Philly, and it could be like Green Bay or New England. Really, there's no transplants that live there. When Washington was playing in Tampa, you could hear the crowd cheer when Washington had a good play because there's people from the Northeast who live in Florida.
Right.
There's nobody who
no one reverse moves.
No one goes to to Philly. Like the amount of people who are from LA who now live in Philly, I bet there's like 75 of them.
Yeah.
So the crowd is Philly. And in Green Bay, it's Wisconsin.
No one's like, man, I got to get out of California, but I heard Wisconsin's nice this time of year.
Green Bay's lovely.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some OCR. We have how many? Okay, I'm going to kind of hand it over to Jack. He's got some stats here. We want to go through all the championships. We're going to rank them in terms of importance, and we're just going to talk about it because this past season it was a lot, and now we have a lot more. Or do we want to start with that race that happened in the Middle East?
Yeah, let's touch about the medal games.
Medal games.
I was going through it this weekend about these games.
Tell us more.
Through it.
Thoughts?
I saw the results first, and I saw pictures and video clips, and I thought, what are we even doing here in this sport? What are we even doing? I saw the results. I saw we had hand holding across the line after you've been paid to go there. And then I saw the prize money that they're holding on the podium, like $1,500 for a 10K in the desert across the world.
Very strange.
And then I started watching the live coverage, and 6 people at the starting line. What does this even bring to the table? And then the first like 3K happens, and they're just running Spartan race obstacles. They went over, under, through.
Over.
It just, there's a Z wall. Like it had different holds. Like you made a Z wall. And then the race continued on. And then they hit a strength zone, and then they hit a carry zone. And by the end of the race, I was like, this is a really cool format.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It's just like, I wanted to hate it. And then it snuck up on me, and I liked the event. Now I don't like a 6-person field.
That was the invite. Like,
right. I think it's
I
dumb.
get it. Yeah.
But
looks strange.
Zone-based course is pretty cool. That's kind of like Cloverleaf.
Little Cloverleafy.
And I liked it. It was a good event.
They had like truly a 600-meter farmer's carry. I took the split on it.
600 meters?
It was 10% of the race time.
Guess how long it took Ryan Atkins. Arguably,
how heavy was it?
Oh, there was
like
5 minutes.
70 pounds in each hand, but it was like shot, a sandbag.
It wasn't 70.
They said it was.
Really?
Was it like 8 minutes?
It took Atkins like 5:47.
And the race was a 50-minute race. It was 10%. It was a little over. It was like 11% of the entire race was spent farmer's carry.
Atkins literally put down the farmer's carry probably 6 or 7 times. And this is a guy who used to go unbroken on Battle Frog back in the day when they'd have some nasty through terrain type of things. You had Thomas Van Tonder and him just kind of break away and create separation. It destroyed people. You saw in the women's race, Nicole, Lisa, they had such a gap at that point. They were walking 20 steps at a time, stop, shake their arms out, go again. It was brutal, and I would have loved it.
That's Jack's kind of thing.
Damn right.
So yeah, interesting that they had like the different type of zones for that. I thought I sent this to you in our chat, whereas like the only comment I saw, it wasn't about the race coverage. Just some guy was like, "This race looks crap." I was like, "It's great. That's just OCR for you. This race looks crap."
In reality, though, like it was, I had the same thought. I was like, "Uh-oh," and then the race kind of happened, and I was like, "This is pretty cool." It was like a stretched out version of TMX almost, where like not CrossFit movements, but you needed to be
DECA
strong.
put on TMX.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Like just stretched like a DECA fit TMX. You're right. Some of those sandbag drags in with the straps in the middle of the race, like that was the differentiator. Bracken, before the race, you were like, VJ's gonna need some help, and guess what? He got it.
Got some help.
He's strong.
He's only been running about 6 weeks or so. I've run with him. Guy's not in shape at the moment. Compared to what we're used to, and
he's just good at OCR though.
He finds a way to pull it off.
So we saw Ryan Atkins return. He took the victory here, and then it was TVT. Thomas Van Tonder finished in second, and then our guy VJ. When I saw VJ there too, I was like, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, he's just good at OCR, man.
So VJ, I don't know if I should give away a secret, but he was like, yeah, I'm considering like faking an ankle injury or something just because I'm not, and then he ends up doing well. So
it's great.
It was like, if you know it now, you know it 100 years from now. That's what the sport felt like to me in that moment, because watching people blast off the line, I was like, oh my goodness, like it has moved on. This is too runnable. It's too fast. This local guy's going to smash. We're just doing Spartan obstacles. And then at the end, it was Atkins and TVT and VJ.
and
like,
Sergey and Leon.
From the dawn of time, everyone's really good at OCR until the OCR part starts. And then it's just the same customers every time show up. So it was reassuring to see. And it puts in perspective how good Basilico is at OCR, because there's a bunch of people out there that run like him for 2 or 3K of an OCR race.
Basilico's getting dead last in this race. He can't even lift up the stone, I bet.
Well, maybe that, but I'm saying like in a bunch of challenging OCR races, he's still running like that at 10 and 12K.
You're right.
He might be able to make up some time on the run. Yeah.
He can do all the OCR things outside of the heavy stuff. So it also gave me appreciation for a guy who wasn't even there, because we just saw him in the desert running faster than these people for 13 miles.
Yeah. And speaking of seeing athletes, I think OCR Report did a fantastic job with the visuals on this one. Crystal clear start to finish, and it was just fun. Yeah, exactly. But they had good rabbits and stuff. You could see the whole thing. So job well done. But
picture almost the whole time.
Yep, both races. But we can't not talk about what happened in the women's race, and I want your opinions.
So in the women's race, there was a tie that seemed calculated, where the Elisa Petrova and Nicole Miracle crossed the finish line holding hands. Shit is weak, bro.
That's what I thought until I watched the race. I did not like the visual of someone's trying to put on a spectacle event. They paid you to come over, paid your way over, one of just 6 people, and you kind of disrespected the race. Like, go on and put it, like, you're being paid, do your best. And then I watched the race, and a 100-meter time split of the race was the finish. They were gone out of sight within a half mile. It was over. It wasn't even a race. And then the farmer's carry made it almost a farce. It was like old school Killington, where people were just in like survival mode. Put it like, it's not even a race at that point. They're looking at like, it's in the desert. We've changed 15 time zones. They're probably worried about cramping. Maybe are cramping already. Like, it's that kind of stuff at that point. Then I got it. I'm like, you know what, whatever. They're doing their own thing. I don't know what they're getting out of this race by having you there, but they got it. You two put on a show. You decimated the other people they brought in. Like, do you need to trash yourself for these final 3K of racing for them to get their money's worth out of having you there? Or the visual of this, and like they can celebrate that. They'll probably get more social media out of that than they would have with you just like battling to the line and cracking someone 1,000 meters out and finishing alone. So I started the conversation of, this is soft, this is lame. And then I switched to, I get it. I think it's probably fine.
Did you watch the whole race, Bracken?
All of it.
So did you see like 5 minutes from the end when Nicole she started slipping on that, like the frame, the wedge frame, and then Elisa waited there for like 40 seconds, didn't even progress forward. That's what makes me mad, where it's
Nicole
like, okay,
did it coming out of the drag though, one of the sleds or whatever.
Why do that? If you're 5 minutes from the finish, just okay, you can't keep up with me now. I have to at least put on an honest effort at that. If you want to run together and then you happen to do that, and then you're like, all right, we're gonna race across this final rig and sprint the 100 feet to the finish, and whoever wins, but we're just jogging together. That's fine. But I am on Rich's side. I was not a fan whatsoever about how they went about that.
Weak. That part made it harder to stomach. And yeah, I think that listen, we're all second guessing. We weren't in the desert having traveled feeling what they're feeling. But I think if you're doing it from, I'm being paid to show up and put on a show, you do what Jack just said. You run together at whatever, you tempo it till the end, and then give them a gauntlet show. And then just say we're splitting the prize money between us afterwards anyway.
Each of you gets $12.50. You guarantee it ahead of time. Doesn't matter who wins at that. Like, make a little genuine.
For sure, the worst part was standing around, not advancing.
And just because Nicole did that with the farmer's carry doesn't mean Elisa had to do it when she got stuck on that frame. Like, that was what I thought was very weak. Just like you were. And I think the post-race comments where it was, Rich, what was it? Like, we want to save ourselves for harder efforts.
Race crap.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see him.
That's the hardest part. Is saying we didn't want to trash ourselves early in the season. It's like, at something that doesn't matter. It's like, no, you just got paid to be. Don't say you're going to ruin it for people next year. Don't tell the people who paid you to be there that this race didn't matter. Like, you got to have a little bit of gamesmanship. If you're going to play the game, you got to play the game.
I know that's just like not very aware.
Yeah.
And like this, if there's a like, and like we're going to talk about how the season plays out. Is there really a beginning or an end or a middle to the OCR season? It's just like whenever there's an event to be paid, like you should come out and compete. Not like, oh, I need to save it. What events are we talking about? What are you saving yourself for?
I want to be hesitant to criticize people who are out there doing it. But if companies are willing to pay anyone in our sport money, we should keep that pipeline going. I just don't want to burn the bridge.
My whole point, like, I'm fine with you two are so much better than the rest of the field. Put on a solid effort. You know, if you want to run together, you can do it for 95% of the race. But at some point, you need to decide we're racing just to give it some legitimacy at that point instead of like a predetermined fixed outcome.
I'm even okay with the fixed outcome, but it's got to be at pace. Macaulay and I have done this. Hunter and I have done this.
Hunter had the rock, paper, scissors against Hobie. Like, do something like that.
Hobie and I have done this. Like, Hobie and Hunter are pillars of the history of this sport, and they have made a gentleman's agreement with me on course. Let's just finish together with this. But it was at like 9/10 effort. Again, I don't want to criticize Nicole and Alyssa, but I understand all of it. But the visual of 2 points, this not advancing for a long time, and then the post-race interview, it just might cut some athletes off at the knees for next year.
I had probably 7 or 8 people message me within an hour of that coverage, and not one person liked it.
This is how you go from show money to win money in the future.
They thought it was an awesome course and design, but they didn't like what happened in the women's race specifically. That's what I'm saying.
It generally like comes down to this a lot. Like how fun is it to watch for those fans?
Yep.
And that's another thing too. It's like, if you want there to be interest in the sport, you have to take the sport seriously. And if you want there to be value, there has to be value for people to watch it. The value is not you're there, so that's what's valuable. It's like, no, people are there to watch you perform and perform hard. That's where the value is from the athlete side. And if you're just like not going to do it, then what is the value here? Why would anybody watch? Why would you get paid if it's not fun to watch?
What if Meg and Lauren were competing in High Rocks and they broke away and they're like 3 minutes ahead? You think they'd be like, let's just do wall balls together at the end? No,
which is fine. Never happen. If one of them didn't wait for 30 seconds to get, like when one took a break, if the other one was at 99 and waited, it's just, I said it a bit, but how you go from show money to win money. Like, we have an established pattern now in the Middle East of athletes being paid to come over. And for some athletes, that's the only guaranteed money on the year, but that's going to go away if what they're paying for isn't given unless you perform. And if you have to perform to get it, they're going to stop giving you money to get there. They're just going to put money on finishing places, which is what I would do if I were Medal Games next year.
They should definitely do that.
I'd be like, I'm paying your way over, but now you got to win it. Like, show money is the way to make money as an athlete, but you got to earn it. So again, I agreed with their decision, but not the execution.
So let's move along. So that was some interesting OCR stuff that happened, but very strange. Is it because when is Gov Games, Jack?
Next
is that
month.
Now? Next month?
Yeah.
Very strange that people went over there. That's such a far trip for not that much money, unless they got paid a lot to show, because like it was not very much.
There's some rumored money, right? Somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 to get there.
I'm sure they got an insurance fee.
It's still like, I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Regardless.
But what's best case there? You leave with $4,000 or $5,000, you lose 20% of that to taxes.
I guess that's not bad for that trip like that. Whatever. You're only racing against 6 people, so it's like
you give up a week of your life.
50% chance that I'm going to win $1,000 on top of it too. Yeah, it's just the travel.
Best coverage of the year, in my opinion. In terms of video,
like it's only 3 weeks in.
Counting last year. I think we saw more of this race than any race we've seen.
Yeah, I was like, this was fantastic coverage. This almost, it was basically as crystal clear as you'd get in an indoor Deca or High Rocks almost. So,
all right, Jack. So let's pull up the amount of championships. I guess we'll just go through them. I don't even know. I don't even have a list. I can't even start to figure out how to even get a list like this. So
should we? Is this the trivia? Can the two of us come up with 50% of the championships for the year?
Oh, you think that happened this past year?
Yeah, 2024. Yeah. Can Rich and I come up with 50% of the championships?
50%. I would say that's
what's the number?
Money. That's plus money for.
Is it more or less than 19?
Okay, if we're looking specifically at stuff that's called World Championship, not a regional championship or anything like that.
World Championship, or what if they just call it like if it says championship but not a denominator of regional?
No, I'm saying like the Seattle Regional Championship.
Yeah, World Championship.
As okay.
Alula wouldn't count.
Okay. Let's go. How many?
How many are there?
Could you give us a?
Well, that was going to be my first question.
Okay, how many?
This past year we had 8.
That's way less than I thought.
Yeah.
What? All right, let's get. Then we got this.
Yeah.
OCR 3K, 15K. Was there a team race?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't doing teams or 100.
Oh, I'm counting it all.
Okay, all right, then add.
Well,
if it says World Championship in OCR,
I guess if someone will put world champion in their Instagram profile for a team win, does that count as then a world championship?
Well, we decide today if it counts. I'm saying how many were called world championships this year.
Okay,
I think this matters.
So we're doing team. Jack, do you have that?
I don't have teams, but there were 7 individual claims to being a world title, and I'm not counting Alula.
Okay, so 3K, you had 15 of OCR Worlds.
FISO, you had the 3K and the 13K.
Hold on, Jack. We're guessing. You know the answers.
Yeah. Go.
Spartan Ultra, 50K.
Oh yeah, that is
Morzine.
Okay. I have that in a different thing. Yep, Spartan Ultra. So now they're actually 9.
And then we have
the Beast,
the Spartan World Championship Beast and Sprint. So
Sprint,
7.
not 100, run 100. Was there a team event at one of those?
There was a team Spartan race. Ultra. Yeah.
Which one? At the Sprint or the Beast?
Abu Dhabi Beast. They had a team race.
Okay.
They didn't show it.
Trifecta World Championship.
They call that World Championship, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is it TWC?
Are there any other trifecta events where they crown a champion of the weekend other than just the World Championship?
Europe does that very commonly, where they'll add up your times and then
there will be
a separate.
But there's no title
tab. No, but it's like I won the Barcelona trifecta weekend or something, and they'll list everyone's cumulative time who did all 3 events.
Okay. I'm at 10. Did we do it then?
Croatia.
Yeah, it's the sprint.
Oh, sprint. Okay. And then World's Toughest Mudder. Don't forget about that.
Is that good? We have counted that historically, but is that more like a Alula situation, like an annual
We'll get to that.
Alula?
What is it titled?
That's what we're debating.
Okay. So
I've got all-time data that I want to talk about at the end of this. So let's not only go on 2024. We can rank these, but I've got some historical comparisons for us.
Great. Yeah. Do we have these in order of when they happened, like chronologically? Like how should we even start this conversation?
Yeah, that's a good point. So you had,
was it the Ultra first?
Morzine was in July. FISO was in August.
Okay.
Croatia was, I think, a week before OCR Worlds.
So like, was that October then?
Yep. And then you had World's Toughest Mudder, and no, you had Trifecta Worlds, then World's Toughest Mudder, then the Abu Dhabi Beast. So.
Okay. And Beast was in
late November.
I'm getting upset hearing and thinking about all of these.
You're hot and bothered?
Yeah, it bothers me.
Go on.
I'm sure this is for later in the episode, but none of it makes sense. High Rocks right now makes sense. You have your season, you have your majors, and everything leads to the culmination event. It's big.
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl, you have a season, you have a playoffs. It leads to the culmination. Triathlon has this, baseball has this, soccer, football has it. It all has it. Even the people that copied OCR have it. Decafit even has this.
Decafit has it, yeah.
And then you have this, which has random events that they label World Championship that has no feeder system to it. And that irks me.
It's goofy, man.
Down the whole world.
For sure.
You have events that only put on one event for the year, and it's a World Championship.
Right.
If you look at this upcoming 2025 season, you're going to have Trifecta Worlds in West Virginia in September. So you're going to have July Morzine, likely August FISO, September Trifecta Worlds, October no OCR Worlds, but you'll have Mammoth, the Super World Championship, a brand new one. November, you're going to have either World's Toughest Mudder, something else, and then December, you're going to have Abu Dhabi. So you're going to have July through December with a separate World Championship over and over again. Come on.
It's an issue, and we are going to not solve it today.
Yeah. We are going to complain about it and make fun of it. And then that's where it's really going to end. Even something stupid like the CrossFit season is also super goofy, but at least they have it leads to one thing. And that's probably the second goofiest sport that exists outside of OCR.
Triathlon's super goofy, but it's streamlined goofy. Like they have the PTO, they have the arena games, they have things that lead up or are adjacent, but like you can be crowned the winner of the arena games, or like you can be the PTO champ, but it doesn't make you the world champion. It's just you won an event.
Rogue Invitational versus CrossFit Games. It's like you won one of the prestigious events.
We have to slap a world title on everything.
Yeah.
And standalone events become world championships in our sport, and they don't need to be. They can just be a major or an open or a spectacle event or just your event that draws from people throughout the world. But the more you slap it on there, the less it matters.
So let's pause on here for just 1 second and talk about why this is actually a thing that happens, right? I believe there was a couple years ago where there was some event that was saying it was a world championship, and maybe it was OCRWC, but it didn't have any type of backing or
no, it was the first year of FISO World Obstacle.
Okay, so it was there was no accreditation, or there was no
they were in Belgium and they just decided we're gonna have a sanctioned event.
Self-credited.
Yeah,
it was self-credited, but how would this stop? How would there be yes, that's the Spartan championship of the beast distance, but this is not a world championship as recognized by a governing body over a sport or something like that.
It would stop by Spartan never going away in its power. As long as Spartan was the sport, they had the formula. They had a season, they had a series, they had a regional championship and a world championship, and everyone else got looked at and be like, yeah, you can call yourself it, but we all know you're not the biggest deal. And so say world championship, it doesn't matter. We don't take it seriously. And OCR Worlds was kind of the exception to that, where it was a one-off festival games type thing where everyone just came in and celebrated the sport. And so many people came in that it was worthy of the moniker World Championship. But everything, Warrior Dash came on and said, World Championship. And everyone's like, yeah, you're not, but it's an awesome event and it pays deep. So we'll go, but we don't call you a world. You can call it, but you're not. But as soon as Spartan lost a little bit of power, they were the authority. Then as soon as that dictatorship was gone, everyone's like, I'm the boss. No, I'm the boss. No, and then there's no accountability because who can really say you're not other than this panel right here.
And so is it just a marketing thing then to say this is a world championship to
prestige?
It's a prestige, just saying that it is something.
Speak it into existence.
Yep.
For most of them, yes. For World Obstacle, I believe that they really believe they are the end all be all, that they are the only one that is accredited. They are the only ones with a board of directors that says we are the whatever you want to call it. And so they believe it, but there's no, I demand that the definition be that there is a season and a playoff or qualification standard, and then culmination in an event. I don't think you can just put on a tentpole event and say this is a world championship, because it's then of what? You're putting on a world championship of other people's sport.
Yeah, you need the path, basically. It
must be a path.
It's like graduating from college. It's like you need to take these classes, you have these options, and then it's
a culmination.
Yeah,
there must be a qualification in. Otherwise, you're culminating other people's season with your event,
which is what OCRWC has done. Correct. They'll take you like, oh, you ran Savage Race, you finished this, you can come run our race.
And it was after Spartan Race World Championship initially. That was like the whole point of it.
It was like immediate
do that, and now this is how we wrap up the season as one family championship.
And I think when looking at this list, pretty much all of these do have some sort of qualification. Correct? Does FISO have that? You have to qualify for your team.
I was going to say you have to be from a country that has a board or some federated organization.
So that's kind of like the Olympics.
Yeah, and no one tries being like, hey, we're the Olympiad, not the Olympic. No one's making up a second.
But how Olympics. Do you qualify for that team? It has nothing to do with the event.
But it has to do with your country.
They have a governing body.
The U.S. has qualification
they'll approve
standards.
You or not based on
yeah, but the submission standard was filling out a submission form, and then the governing body chooses.
But that could be there. Other countries kind of do it that way, right? There's not like not everyone does the Olympic trials the way we do it.
Although I would stand by this and claim the Olympics are not a world championship.
Let's go.
They are a tentpole event. They don't claim to be world champion. You're Olympic champion.
Right. World championships which is elevated above a world championship.
It's like the pinnacle because of the scarcity. It's every 4 years while world championships are alternating. And
yeah, it's more special to the public, but it is harder to win a world championship in any major sport than it is to win an Olympic championship.
I would say Olympics harder because it's a 4-year cycle. So you need to be on that day.
From a timing, yes, but from a competition standpoint, you only have to deal with, like, say, track and field, 3 people from every country, where world championships, you might run against 5 Ethiopians.
Do they allow more than 5?
Yeah, actually, if you're the reigning world champ, you get in, and then you get an extra qualification slot. And
you have enough. Okay.
Ideally, if you can beat the 3 from Ethiopia, you could probably beat the 4th and 5th. Like
only because their selection process is terrible.
It's so corrupt.
Anyway, point being, I wouldn't even classify the Olympics as a world championship. They don't even bother putting that. It doesn't say world anywhere in the Olympic slogan. They know.
I like this take. Olympics, goofy. I like it.
The best form of goofy.
Great goofy. The goofiest games of them all. Okay. So in terms of so there is some of that, and I guess that could be part of this conversation too. Like, how do you get there? Is that legitimate? Is that harder? Is that like what we wanted to see, how we want to see it in terms of how we're going to rank these things out? Okay, cool.
I think any championship is the final piece to some sort of structured season.
So pathway,
there must be a pathway. And that's why Olympics is different. We're putting this on, get people here how you want. And I think that's kind of the standard we should all be held by. If it says championship, that implies championship of a process.
Okay. So we'll talk about, okay, that's fair. We'll talk about pathway. I guess the competition aspect should be something that we touch on. Like how competitive was it?
You actually have to have a representation of countries rather than like, hey, 3 showed up, so that's a world championship because they're from around the world. I feel like enough distribution, like a minimum number of countries.
Yep.
Okay. Country participation, total like competition quality, let's call it that, just for the sake of it. Like if it does have this representation and a pathway, but nobody does it, like that's more subjective, right? Like, nah, that's kind of.
They decided not to show up.
Like there's no reason for someone to show up for the best of the best. So like, can we call it that?
Well, even like Spartan Race World Championship back in the day had a less defined process of getting there.
You got a coin by getting top 5 in a local race, and then there was a roll down.
It wasn't a season, but there was a process of getting there, and it did culminate the Spartan year.
Love the coin. Let's bring back the coin.
I still have mine.
I probably got mine somewhere too.
The coin played.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what are the things we'd like to see about this? Does the actual style of course matter for the sake of this? Or is it just like wherever people are going to show up?
I think distance does, because you can't like
distance.
Yeah. If you have a 3K or an ultra, like that's going to favor a certain type of athlete.
I don't agree with, I think distance matters, but only in the confines of, is it the culmination of what led to it?
Well, it could be if there's a tiebreaker. If there's a tiebreaker that we need to, if like things have met all of our criteria, then we can go into distance and style.
Okay.
Right. But so what I'm saying is FISO 3K. What is that the championship of? It's that event. Spartan 3K World Championships was the culmination of a 3K international series. They said this is the distance this year, and here's the process of getting there. Even though that distance is historically irrelevant in OCR, that was a legit.
But for 2023, that was the focus. They had
it that year. That was the focus, and so it made
European
sense.
series, US series, Philippine, like that was athletes knew that was what they were getting into.
So even though it's not an OCR distance that usually matters, that was legit that year. Whereas the Sprint World Championship this year was just a one-off event.
We're going to add another distance. So, but I can see it's not like the Olympics are the running world championship. Like you have different distances. So I think it is fair to have a sprint, a super, a bit like this is the race that matters the most. But I don't know. I think that it is okay to have multiple distances.
For sure. If it culminates something.
Okay. So
the Olympics don't put on new events.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are we at? 11 or 12? How many do we have? Are we including teams?
I don't think we even did teams or the hundreds.
Okay. So we'll take teams just out. All teams are out.
Team's not happening.
That doesn't count. That right away we could just draw a line there. I'm going to try to put these in a bracket.
Team events are cool, but they're not meaningful to a athlete resume.
Fantastic spectacle, because it's always like, oh, how would these two team up? Like watching High Rocks Worlds, fantastic. OCR Worlds is some of the best team strategies because they have like their different legs where speed, technical, strength, leg. Like I love that type of idea.
Yeah, relays even in the Olympics are for pride. They're not for like anyone's legacy. We probably all personally know someone that has a 4x400 meter medal for the United States who ran in the prelims at some point or was an alternate and didn't run in the semis or the finals. It doesn't mean anything, but it was cool.
Yeah.
So even at the Olympic level, no one really takes it that seriously.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay. Gotcha.
How many times has the U.S. dropped the baton? It's not going to affect any of their legacies.
Like 2004. Yeah.
Yeah. No one's legacy is affected by that.
But Justin Gatlin, Tyson Gay, some of the best in the U.S. over the past couple decades, they've all been involved in those handoff debacles, but they've also got individual titles.
How many world team podiums and victories do I have in OCR, Jack?
World team
podiums and wins.
Probably 14 and 15 in Ohio. I think you got one in Canada with like Tiffany and Gowiski, right? Were you involved in a Spartan team one at some point? You did like that Extreme Nation, but I'm not counting that one.
2 different Spartan team ones. And how many of these things
the
entered
Dallas
into the conversation for 17th greatest of all time?
21st, yeah.
How many of them entered into anyone's conversation in that episode we just did? None. No one mentioned team one time, and that's all you need to know. Team championships are spectacle events. They're not world titles.
But I mean, if there was a tiebreaker and someone else didn't have those team titles, Bracken, that might shoot you back into the top 20 now that we have this information on the board. You might be the most decorated team athlete out there.
Probably not, but I'll take it.
He's a dog.
Yeah.
You're an All-American on the team, right?
Quarter All-American.
Yeah.
Hey, that counts.
You're quarter American.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we called it in college. You earned quarter All-American status.
Yeah.
Because even in college, 20 years old, we understood you're not a real All-American for a relay.
And since you're D3, do you like divide it by 3 so you're like 12th of American?
No, we're full Americans. We're just not that good.
Just checking. I mean, you already broke it down a little more. So, yeah. All right. So,
all right.
Yeah.
That is a good question, though. Is a D3 All-American better than a D1 non-All-American?
Look at the time. That's all that matters.
Depends on the time. When you do times,
track is very easy to compare.
Yes. In which case, our answer would have been no.
No.
Because if I
ran the race of my life, I split 2015 for the 3015 for the 1200. That would have handed off dead last by 30 meters in D1.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I was, my year, I didn't even qualify for regionals with my PR my sophomore year, but I think I would have been like third at D3 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you tell me.
It's you can't compare it.
You tell me.
It's JV versus varsity.
It's like the Asia Regional Championship versus North American or Europe at this point.
You ready now, Rich?
We're ready. We got a bracket situation. We got 9 teams. So I had to get a little funky with that. 9 teams, 9 races that
first round bye.
Do we have a play-in, or do we have a?
We're just getting a. So yeah, I guess it's a play-in.
Triple threat match.
I like a play-in, which is the way to do it. This is not what we need to talk about. I am against buys in playoffs. Play-in game is the way to do it.
I suppose this would be a play-in
this year. Yeah.
So I did not rank these in any particular order. I guess I kind of ranked them a little bit, but so we're just gonna knock off like the redundancies right away. First matchup: Spartan Ultra versus WTM.
Oh, I don't like this.
We're ranking them now.
Is
WTM?
Is this current? So this is only the 2024 heading into.
This is like in 2025. What are we going to care about more? Like based off of what we've seen in the past.
Oh,
I think
every year until this year.
I'm looking more forward to it. Yeah.
Every year until this year was WTM.
I take it back. WTM is going to Europe for the first time. I think you're going to have a resurgence.
Ugh, that's good for you, Jack. Everyone else is kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
I will say this. All you have to do to qualify for Spartan Ultra World Championships is wait until they send you the email that you've qualified.
How do you qualify for Spartan Ultra?
In theory, you have to finish a Spartan Ultra.
That's it, right?
And you might, sometimes there's language that they'll say at the beginning of the year, like you need to finish top 20 or 50
or some percentile within your age group or something.
Basically, if you want to sign up for it, they'll let you.
But just like Trifecta World Championships, I get my qualification email every year. And I didn't even run an OCR event last year past January abominable snow race, but I made it. I could have signed up for Trifecta.
So Pathway.
WTM.
So Pathway, what WTM has, you have to finish a certain amount of miles over a toughest.
The 8 hour.
If you're looking for contender status, there's a distance to hit over the 8 hour. And if you're looking to just be there qualified, then there's a less number.
So in terms of Pathway, it's murky on both and fairly low.
No, it's spelled out for Tough Mudder. I can pull it up if you like.
I think another thing to consider, this is like the only 24-hour race that exists anymore in OCR. And there are a lot of, we had a Lula that was basically the same distance. You had long beasts. You have plenty of ultras throughout the season. I think the World's Toughest Mudder is a little more prestigious at this point because of the uniqueness.
Based on the history of it. But if we move on to the second, so Pathway, we're going to lean toward WTM.
Yes.
Sounds like, right, BK? Okay. So Pathway.
You even have
WTM.
start corrals with specific bibs based on how you qualified it.
So we like that Pathway better.
Yes.
Competition quality.
Oof. Every year until 2024.
Just this last year.
And yet, if you look at the results, we didn't know the names in the same way we knew previous year names, but in terms of performance, they were every bit as good. No one could just show up there and win and beat those people that were there.
It's hard to compare WTM courses, though. Year over year, you can't really be like, oh, well, this person would probably have beaten Ryan Atkins. Michael Schott would have beaten Ryan Atkins because he ran more miles, even though he did beat him. I
actually did beat him.
I do remember. But if we say, okay, he would beat Batris or not
true.
Batris even. Like, it's hard to say that.
But we've had 4 courses, and we've seen that the fluctuation year to year is like 5 miles.
If I told you that the winner of a world championship event was Nikki Karamba and Michael Schott, you'd be like, okay, that is ranking really low on the prestige factor, like the notable names. But then you look at the performances, like Rich said, and they were really good ones. I mean, Nikki ran 95 miles. Michael Schott ran 115. You can't fake that.
Is it much different than saying Lucas Pascalderon is the world champion? You'd be like, he's good, but he's not a world champion favorite.
Yeah, Ricky too.
But on that day, could we choose someone to beat either of them?
I think Luca is now on our list, right?
At that moment, yeah.
And Michael Schott is not.
Michael Schott would be on our ultra list. Our WTM Hall of Fame.
Our hypothetical WTM. Yeah. He's probably on the Wikipedia page that they have. But in terms of competition quality, it's hard to really compare because there's only been one 50K world championship. And in the previous year, the Spartan 50K competition-wise was better.
I will also say this. WTM is kind of known for this. Katie Knight showed up with no OCR accolades other than like 1 month prior. Callie showed up with not a ton of OCR, like world championship accolades. We have Schott who did it.
Ryan Atkins showed up in 2013. No one knew who the heck he was.
Juliana Sproles, Amelia Boone, really. Like WTM gets the spotlight on these stars. DJ Fox. This keeps happening. Someone wins or goes top 3 who are like, what in the world? And then from that point on, you realize they've been a monster the whole time, but they hadn't had an event yet that showed how big of a monster they are. So while we look at this result and be like, it's not as good as other years because the star power wasn't there, there's a real chance this is the star power for the foreseeable future.
Okay. I'll give it a WTM at the moment.
For competition quality.
Oh, I was just going to say overall, like all factors included.
We've even gone through all the factors. Okay. Country participation.
Ultra's got it. It's in Europe. You're going to have more people from around Europe going.
Yeah. It gets more countries.
Okay.
I will say that the field dropped off pretty quickly after the top 5.
Michael Schott's from Denmark, and Nikki Karamba, I think, is South Africa. So you did have some international.
Historically, though,
it's typically North America dominated
because it has been in North America. They haven't.
Yeah,
and we'll see this year. Like this year, the country participation will spread out because it's going to be easier to access for the majority of the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then distance and style. So this is more of a subjective thing. What do we like? Do we want a 24-hour slogfest through mud and cold, or more of a 50K mountain run? Like, do we want more running, or do we want more toughness here, or more like durability?
Normally, I'm leaning more towards like racing instead of just toughness, but this is the only like it's the grittiest event out there for OCR, and historically, it's had some just crazy storylines. I'm leaning towards WTM, and because it's the only one of the year. And like I mentioned earlier, you have plenty of ultras to choose from in that 8 hour and below, or probably like 6 to 12 hour range, but 24 hours is very unique.
I'm going to be with Jack. I think distance on paper, I would say the 50K is better for OCR, but for style, nothing matches the style of World's Toughest. I think it's a pillar of the OCR community, but I would also say that the 50K, as cool as it is redundant. We talked about the 6 hour Lula as or was it 8 hour?
8
6
hour.
8. Yep. It was a really cool distance because it just moves past the distance that the normal good OCR athletes can count on themselves for. And my belief is that if you took the top 20 positions at any Spartan Beast Distance World Championship, you would have like a
80%.
I was going to say even 90% carryover to the 50K distance. Probably. 50K is still a fast race. It's a little longer, but still a fast race. It's testing almost like if you could do Tahoe 25K or 50K, I think it's the same results.
Yeah.
A couple little switches here or there, but World's Toughest is, I think it wins out on this. I think the 50K is redundant. I don't think you need both.
So when we go through it all, the ultra puts up would probably meet the criteria better, but we just want World's Toughest to be there. So let's just move World's Toughest on.
Does it mean
competition quality, country participation? It's like a landslide. And distance and style, we've all kind of like, yeah, we like that idea better, but in this circumstance. So at that, let's say it's 50-50, we'll move World's Toughest on because we like it better.
I think the deciding factor is that there's been 1 year of the Spartan 50K World Championship.
True.
Yeah.
And it might not come back. Is it coming back?
No, it's coming back 4th of July.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep, they're having a Stadium World Championship next year.
Is that true?
10 years running next year.
Yeah. So WTM moves on. Bottom of this bracket, we are going to do FISO 3K versus OCRWC 3K. All right, first pathway.
In its current form.
Pathway first.
Here's the thing. OCR Worlds is not going to exist this upcoming year. So do we just automatically cross it out?
Are we hoping this is it? Do we never want this to come back? Is it better if it's just gone?
No, it's not better.
Why not?
But because in its purest form, in its ultimate realized form, it is arguably the best OCR event we've ever had. It's special. It had the buzz and just overall feeling of the best years of a Spartan Race Championship with the diversity of obstacles and nations that you didn't see anywhere else. In its best form, it's the best of us. But it hasn't been in its best form in like 5 years.
Forever.
And it's been worse each year.
Yeah.
And to the point where
regain prominence, like how could that possibly happen?
To the point where this year we started using it as a negative on certain people's resumes. Like, oh, that doesn't mean anything anymore.
You're like, hey, Eugenio, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And as soon as you start saying that, it's not a world championship.
Right.
And so I cannot believe I'm saying this, but FISO this year blew OCR World's 3K out of the water with depth of competition, top end competition, and I think importance. And most importantly, it was a 3K not at altitude with difficult obstacles, which I think is needed for a 3K. You can't have a slow 3K.
Right. So in terms of competition quality and country participation, like it's a landslide. Distance and style are this. It's redundant. So like FISO
is a 3K with 2,000 feet of gain. That's not
at like 7,000 feet.
Yeah.
8,000. Where does Mammoth start?
Mammoth the 15K topped over 10,000.
OCR Worlds at its peak had the best of US and the best of the world. Right now it has the best of the rest of both. And FISO had the best of the world mostly and very few US athletes of note.
Yeah. I think FISO run away with this one.
Yeah. That was a plan. On to the other side of the bracket. Spartan sprints in Croatia versus FISO 14K. So let's go pathway. BK hates the FISO pathway because it's more of a nomination. It's like more just appointed as opposed to earning. So that's kind of what we talked about before in terms of Olympics versus World Championship. Like there's not a clear and concise way to race your way into a FISO. It's like you're kind of selected.
I don't like either option. So Jack, talk me into one.
What was the pathway for the sprint really fast?
Into the sprint, I think that you just had to want to show up.
Oh, there was no real pathway for this?
I don't think so, because they got rid of like the 3K qualification. Remember how you needed
there
a top
was
20 in a previous national series?
I thought there were qualifications to race like Seattle.
I don't think that Frank Ostrom, who got second place or third place, even had run a Spartan. He might have run like one several years before.
So in terms of pathway, then
didn't really have it.
FISO kind of wins this one. I did not think that was going to be the case. Like it's just like a show up.
Because you do have your...
If you can swim, you're in.
You don't have to be able to swim. We saw that. They give you a life jacket.
If you're not afraid of the water, go on.
I think it's time to be done with the water obstacles if you have to wear a life jacket. Everything must be chest or below. That's still tiring. That tests skill. Life jacket, you might as well give them a kickboard.
Kickboards are impossibly hard. Okay. So I think that would be a challenge, especially without fins. Jack, I got fins on, dude. I'm out here with the kickboard just hammering away.
Heck yeah. Audrey, we watched a little bit of that video and she's like, I hope Rich has a kickboard. And then like 5 seconds later, you were like, yeah, I was doing kickboard.
Yep.
And she's like,
with the fins on, I'm flying, I'm motoring around.
Why do you have the fins? Is it for higher output or what?
It's kind of like resistance training.
Okay.
With the fins. I thought, I was like, this is weird. You go faster in them, but it makes it harder and it's a little bit more sustainable. So you can do more.
Slows your cadence a little bit so you can
Not yeah, I guess so. It's supposed to make you kick more through your hips. But yeah, you can just do a little bit more, and it's like resistance.
You're in.
I'm in there, man. Come on. I got some jammer shorts. I'm not even got these baggy shorts. I'm like, yep, I'm streamlined. I'm learning how to flip turn.
You got TYR, you got Speedo. What are you wearing?
Got that tier. You know I do.
Goggles are the most important thing.
Goggles,
so make sure you get a good quality.
I got earplugs because I didn't like how it was getting water up in my ear.
What brand you go with for goggles?
Also tier. I'm in. They're in for CrossFit, so I'm just like, hey, their marketing worked for me.
Yeah.
All right, competition quality. This is not a landslide.
No. Yeah, you're talking the.
It's almost the same. It's very similar,
right?
Yes, this is the 14K.
It's
still pretty similar.
I can't choose it.
Jack, do you have
now? If I'm looking at the men's results, yeah. So you had Stein in the top 2 in both of them. All right, I'll read out the top 10. FISO: Yesterday Hare, Stein Legrand, Igor, Frank Osterom, Eduardo Esteban Garcia, Logan Broadbent, Lucas Florentino, Enaut Gonzalez, Joseph Moy. I don't think that FISO is going to win this. You've got Basilico second, Frank third, Heineck, Peter Saniga, Yesterday Hare, David Labros, Manuel. Yeah, it's without question. Havar.
Okay, so Spartan won.
That's just the men's side.
And like the competition quality could be due to lack of pathway, but so it could be either or, however we want to say that. But the competition quality is better for the Spartan sprint.
Well, if neither of them have a culmination of anything, then all we can judge it on is who shows up.
What about country participation? Push?
It's like Europe for you did have athletes from around the world show up to both of them. I think that could be a tie.
It's a push. Distance and style. Yeah.
It's a 13K. I can't give it to a 13K.
14K, bro.
No, this year was
13.
No, it was 14K the year before.
Somewhere
this
between
year was a
13 and 14K. As goofy as that is,
that number. No one has. There's never been a race on the roads or trails or anything besides put on by FISO that is a 13K.
They don't need to put the kilometer situation. How long was the Spartan one?
It doesn't matter the distance because it's not the culmination of anything. They're both standalone events. Spartan Sprint's a little less of a standalone because there are sprints throughout the year. So that gets the nod from me. But from the start of last year, everyone knew that this was a world championship on the calendar.
The sprint?
No, FISO.
Oh,
everyone,
yeah.
They understood that from the start where the sprint was kind of like, oh, they're going to do this thing, or maybe I'll go to and then like as it got closer. So I can't choose between these two. They cancel each other out in my book.
I mean,
no.
Can they both be?
If you look at the,
can they both be what?
Can they both be eliminated?
No.
They both got popped for race doping and they're gone.
I think that the sprint to me was I just had a sour taste about the whole thing because the amount of focus that they put on this other event. The sprint seemed like a throw-in after they did this 100-meter event that no one in the community cares about, that no one in the community participated in. They brought people from outside and like the Ninja Warrior thing. So I'm just like sour on this event in general. I just think it, and then like the long swim, I think is so stupid. FISO is like,
you might win it next year.
What's that?
You might win it next year.
They throw a ski erg in there.
Swim
ski erg and then a swim.
Or a ski erg right there. Or you swim out to a ski erg. There we go.
Or I guess it would probably be rower would probably be the move for the water. It'd be a little bit more of
on the mountain,
a little more synergistic with that
runnable water-based course. This might just be you.
I'll be wearing my jammers.
I don't know. I'm just looking at Havar, Croatia. You had about a 7-minute gap for first through 10th there, so it wasn't that, but that was closer than it was on the women's side.
Race.
But
that's over a minute a mile.
Okay,
Havar.
So 21st place on, or 20th place on the men's side was 87% of winner for Havar, Croatia. And if we're looking at FISO, 20th place was 79%. So you had way more stacked competition in Croatia.
So what matters more, who showed up or everything else? I can't say everything else because they're split.
I think if it's a world championship, you want the best athletes there, and there's no way that Croatia had worse athletes show up.
Is this even going to happen this year?
I thought that they said there's going to be another one
of the sprint.
Yeah.
Why are you saying it like that? Like, yeah, it's the first time we've seen this.
I'm typing it in Google. Okay. From October 9th through the 12th, 2025, VAR Croatia, blah, blah, will serve as the backdrop for the second edition of the Spartan World Championship. Okay. It's coming back.
All right. I'm going to vote Spartan Sprint. I do not like the idea of putting two semi-similarly distanced events on the same weekend. I don't want to see tired athletes competing. I want to see everyone fresh and going after their thing.
Okay.
And the sprint was a better representation of non-short course, fast obstacle-based running with better people there, in my opinion. I think FISO already got their 3K, so I'm voting sprint, Spartan Sprint. And if they're doing another one, I think it can grow to be better than the 12 through 20K sprint or long course distance FISO puts
if they're doing another one.
And there was no flash mob.
No, that's true.
And they put it in a country.
Is that better? Is that better?
Country that's landlocked by countries that all like OCR.
I mean, if we're talking excitement of the event, there's no denying that FISO had the most excitement. They had thousands of YouTube fans and stuff come and
people were flocking to that event.
All right, we'll give it to Havar begrudgingly. I think that event's stupid. Off to
this is optimistic. They could grow the sprint championship into a legitimate, exciting thing.
They could.
I like the 3K. Location in the calendar.
The 3K championship into a legitimately exciting thing, and then they just scrapped it.
Right, but they're at least doing it again.
So FISO is going to be
right now.
It's going to be in Sweden this year, and it's at a venue like Costa Rica. No one knew what they were getting themselves into, but this venue in Sweden has been used for toughest and several other races throughout the year. It's going to be a very, very established location.
They could take it right back next year in the bracket.
They could.
Okay. OCR 15K versus Spartan Trifecta.
Trifecta. Just end of story.
We don't even need to do this, right?
Yeah. Spartan Trifecta.
Okay.
Why is it that Spartan's following the Poor Company handbook? Why are they changing offerings every year, trying to like capture an audience? Like they had an audience.
I know.
They're like Boost Mobile.
It really is. They're just like trying.
Just set your prices high like Verizon and say we're the best and stay there. Even if you're not anymore. Just keep telling them you are.
I don't understand. It's their grasp of sport never improved. It just seems to continuously just be like they're grasping at straws. Okay. On to the back to the side of the bracket. Now we have FISO 3K against Abu Dhabi Beast, Spartan Beast. The pathway for the Beasts, was there a pathway?
Yeah, you needed to do the regional championship.
You had to do Seattle.
No, wait. Now that I think about it, Elisa didn't run a Spartan race because she got denied entry to Trifecta Worlds. Like that was her only
grandfather in based off of
previous podium. They could have done that. They've done.
They
that
just were like, yeah, we don't really know what we're talking about anyway.
Zuzana, Nicole.
You don't need stats.
I'm just naming people like they ran their local.
It's still the most important, prestigious event and has been for a decade. It doesn't matter if it's a reduced or not. An upstart event cannot yet surpass the Spartan Beast Championship. It just can't. We don't even need stats yet. Maybe in a year or two we could, but we don't yet.
All the athletes who are at the FISO 3K basically did Abu Dhabi. Did they finish? Not necessarily, but
the pathway is the only thing that I think that the Spartan is kind of dropping below. I would even prefer FISO's pathway than what Spartan has been doing, where it's just nonsensical and just
it changes every year,
consistent and like.
Can you explain the FISO pathway? Why it's so good?
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that Spartan's is bad and dumb. Like there's like no sense to it. It's like, oh, we have this pathway, but you don't really have to do it if like you can't. Like, but like it's going to stop people from doing it because they do put out these rules that are hard. And even to qualify for like Seattle, like if you had to qualify for Seattle to get to the Abu Dhabi, that was a major barrier for a lot of people here because you had to run in one of the 3 National Series races.
It stopped the OG comeback tour, which VJ was putting together.
Exactly.
There were probably 5 people that could have gone top 10 to 15 in that race who didn't even start the process, because not only did you have to run that National Series race, you had to run one to qualify into the National Series race in order to qualify, which I like a pathway. It's defined, but then they didn't hold to it.
They didn't hold it. And they made it like challenging, and there was no incentive to do these other races. And when it's not, you're not even sure like what's going to happen later in the year. Like they might change things.
And they stand on business right up until the point that they shoot themselves in the foot. And then later they'll be like, it didn't matter anyway. Like, well, what happened to all the people that have top 5s at Worlds historically who wanted to come back and do this? Like, well, yeah, well, that was the rules, but now it's not. Like it's a pathway.
But it's bad.
So what's FISO's pathway?
I would rather somebody be there appointing people to go to the World Championships. Like if that was the case, it's like, all right, well, VJ didn't qualify because of all these standards, but like he's in good shape.
He's gonna do well.
I think it's a new versus old.
Same thing. Like he goes in because he's Atkins. We think he's going to be good to represent our country. I prefer that over Spartan just throwing stuff out there and being like, no one's really going to care what we say anyway. Like, do people really care about this sport? I still don't understand how that could be.
Fill 50% of your pro field with a pathway and appoint the rest that need to be there to fill it out. Pretty easy. Well, Jack will do it.
Jack will do it.
I could do it in seconds.
Yep. I'll complain afterwards.
Yeah.
We will complain. This is corrupt.
Damn right.
Okay, so just Spartan Beast.
Yeah.
Spartan Beast.
All right.
Because if you told almost any athlete at the start of the year, you won a world championship 10 months from now, but you get to pick right now which one it's going to be.
That's your answer.
9 out of 10 are still choosing Spartan race.
Okay, so we have the Havar Sprint versus Spartan Trifecta. Spartan on Spartan here.
Ooh.
They got lucky that some good people lived close. The Trifecta is still more prestigious.
Yeah. I'll agree. Trifecta at this point, like you look on the men's side, you had Heineck, Basilico, Luca, Angel, Saniga. Like you had several guys, Thibaut Jean traveling from Australia and stuff. I think that's by far the most like destination race out there on the Spartan side.
It's gonna be crap. This event gonna be crap in West Virginia.
But then on the women's side, if we look at it realistically, though, you had Nicole and then Sabrina D'Alio. Like she had a great race, but her, Adela Mesakova, Yolanta Papior, like those aren't household names.
No,
but
we had some issues. Enrique was burnt/injured. We couldn't get travel visa. So
yeah, but like
you're not wrong.
You did have the athletes show up.
In terms of competition quality, the sprint may have been better this year.
Like if you look at on the women's side for Croatia, you had Nicole, Zuzana, Sarah Beckstrom, Esther. You had some notable previous podium world championship finishers showing up there.
Yep.
Deeper than Trifecta. And on the men's side, I'd say they were kind of a wash.
Country participation, probably a wash. Maybe Trifecta a little bit more even.
More US go over to that.
In terms of distance and style, like the main thing that I think this should be the only style that OCR has, and that the event, because it is all encompassing on the weekend, there's nothing else going on. So Trifecta is the championship here. There's not 100. There's not a team race. There's not all this other dumb stuff that literally no one cares about, like thrown in there. So like Trifecta is the premier event of the weekend, which is stupid to even think about like that as an argument because the sprint is so silly. But Trifecta by far.
Yep. Give it to it.
All right. Okay, now we have WTM versus Spartan Beast. In terms of pathway, World's Toughest is kind of better, right?
It's clear.
A little more clear. Competition quality, that leans Beast.
Spartan Beast.
Pretty heavily. Country participation, probably the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Distance and style.
I mean, I don't know if we can compare them.
They're so different.
I want these two to meet in the finals.
I know.
No, semis.
This is Bills Chiefs again. Like, why do we keep meeting in the semis? Yeah. It sucks.
But Bracken, you even said it. Like, if there was one world championship anybody could win, you ask them, 9 out of 10 of them are going to go Spartan World Championship.
Except for the people who are going to World's Toughest. It's a different crowd. They exist in parallel universes.
I prefer the Beast. The World's Toughest is really cool, but it is still just like a slog.
It's a spectacle.
It's very slow. I think the event itself is the best in terms of what people experience when they're down there. I haven't been, but just like how people rave about it, it's seemingly the best one.
Yeah.
But the event, just like for me personally, I'm less interested just in terms of consuming it.
Yeah. Even with Atkins coming back this year as like a surprise, I wasn't that pumped.
BK's a junkie though. He'll watch. He needs content.
Yeah.
He needs that fix.
I'm torn because Spartan has taken their worst world championship venue or location and they've doubled down on it. Mm-hmm. It's now going to be the longest standing venue. And so I'm not optimistic they're going to ever leave because it might be the only money keeping them afloat. And I think it's the worst representation of our sport. So obstinately, I might just vote World's Toughest here. Just to spite her face. Because Jack's going to be the voice of reason. So World's Toughest. They've stayed true to their roots no matter what. The thing that makes them special continues to make them special. It is a melting pot. We have seen people who have won Spartan sprints win the world championship here. Anything can happen, which is like the spirit of OCR. It's a meeting ground where no one skill wins out. And Spartan has really become a one skill wins out unless they throw a double sandbag carry. So give me World's Toughest. Jack, save us.
Prestige. It's definitely, you've got more people, more higher quality athletes. We're talking about the best world championship. And I think that more people would respect the title of so-and-so being a world champion if they had to take down Gregory Basilico. If Atkins was beaten head to head and didn't have an injury, then it's like, okay, that has a little bit more prestige to it. That wasn't the case. You didn't have the Chris Rogloskis or Reyes or Amelias in the field. No disrespect to what Nikki did, but yeah, if you wanted to win Abu Dhabi, you had to get through Zuzana, Nicole, Elisa, Esther. Like, the names showed up there at the end of the day, and that's got my vote.
It takes a skill set that is genetic to win a Spartan Beast World Championship. You can win World's Toughest off being an incredible, tough athlete, which means it's special because anyone can do it. Almost. But very few people have the skill set to win the Spartan World Championship, which makes it the best world championship. It makes it the most elite.
It takes a pretty good skill set to win any world championship, track, swimming, Olympic, whatever.
Yeah.
As well. Any sport. It takes pretty good genetics to make the NFL. So we're talking about the best of the best in the world, and that is what a world champion is. And you just kind of said that, oh, it's for anybody. But I think let's lean towards the side of the most skilled athletes and who's the best of the best.
For sure. Worlds is the toughest of the toughest, the grittiest of the grittiest. And so I vote for it to spite Spartan, but Spartan is the better championship.
All right. On to the championship. We're here. We've done it.
This is it.
Spartan trifecta versus Spartan Beast.
Oof. It's not close. Spartan trifecta has never got the buy-in that Spartan Worlds does. At their absolute peak, it's not even close. Spartan trifecta is the one that people go to afterwards because it seems like a really cool, fun event. Our hopes and aspirations for the trifecta is that it could become the end-all, be-all Spartan championship. But the fact is, nothing that has happened in OCR has ever touched what Spartan Beast World Championship can be.
In its past, but where? Okay, let's just run
even
through
current.
Let's just
field.
run through it. Let's just run through pathway.
Even current, the field is better. Yeah.
Well, let's run through it. Pathway. Trifecta has something that's defined. It's pretty loose. It's pretty easy.
You allegedly need to run a trifecta, or one sprint, one super, one beats. Doesn't have to be the same weekend. At some point during the calendar or the previous year. The problem is, we were talking about how Elisa wasn't able to make Trifecta Worlds, and that's the reason she only ran her only race this year at Spartan Worlds. But what race did she use to qualify for Trifecta Worlds?
All I know is I've qualified for Trifecta 3 or 4 straight years.
Let's call it a push. It's stupid both ways.
But I haven't qualified for Spartan Worlds.
But I think that this past year, Spartan Worlds did have the top 20 at a national series race to race at your regional, and then top 50 at your regional. So basically, if you race at your regional, you're good to go. And that's why we saw athletes like, Brennan Neely and others show up for that race to get into.
How did Ryland get into that one?
Former regional champ, Kelowna, right, probably.
But that wasn't a thing. Anyway, point is they both suck, but it's easier to get into Trifecta.
And the Trifecta doesn't really make a compelling season the way that the Beast has in the past. I don't think it did that this year, really. But it has previously been like, okay, like here's a regional event, here's this, here's all these things that are going to stack people up, where Trifecta is just more or less a one-off.
Mm-hmm. Trifecta to me is Spartan's OCR Worlds. That's what it
Spartan
is.
It's on OCR Worlds. So, yeah.
Well, now, OCR World at its best was a great, awesome, positive event to end the OCR year. And that's what Trifecta is. It's a celebration. There's a parade of nations. They do a bunch of funky obstacles that Spartan would never have in the United States, but they'll do it there. And it's fun. Spartan World Championships is not fun. Trifecta is. And so I think that it's the purest Spartan, but it certainly does not beat the World Championship.
How about competition quality?
Kind of a push on the men's side for both of them, but this past year, without question, the women, they definitely went to Abu Dhabi.
More in Abu Dhabi, yeah. Country participation.
I feel like you get more. You get more athletes from Asia, but fewer from North America going to Abu Dhabi. Trifecta is mainly Europe heavy, with a few sprinkled in around the world after. Yeah, it's a push.
And distance and style.
Oh, style, it's got to go Trifecta there, because like you've got your offerings, like all three.
And I like that it is like the thing that you're doing that weekend. It's not there's not a team race, there's not a sprint, like whatever. We're not throwing in championships after a certain championship.
I'll give them both, distance and style.
For Trifecta?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be my preferred if it had all these other
and they do
boxes checked, but they don't.
They do have the uniqueness where it's like they do the staggered start on the final day, so it's like a buy-in to get there, and then whoever crossed that's unique. That's different style.
Yeah. Question for you though, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name the last 3 or 4 men's and women's champions from Trifecta?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, not really. I just feel like Basilico. It's been Basilico and Heineck, and then on the women's side is Nicole, and then last year
Esther,
and then Lindsay is one. Yeah, I mean, it's the name. It's a typical name. It's the same people.
Who took second and third?
Marcel Fabian this year.
Did it mean anything versus like Emma Cook Clark taking second or third?
Fourth at World.
Annie. You're like,
Annie. Yeah.
We were blown away by those. So it's the best of what Spartan is, I think, and it doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, historically that is true, but currently for next year, what do we?
I think currently it's a push. So I give historical context.
Well, West Virginia is going to be the new Trifecta World Championship. Now, are we going to get more of the names that we're used to, or is OCR in the?
We're going to find out real quick.
We're going to get less. It's going to be worse. We're going to get.
It's East Coast.
Europeans.
We might get Europe.
It's hard to get to there to get West Virginia if you.
West Virginia is real difficult in the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what 4-hour drive or something from any nearby airport?
It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Europe doesn't care about that. They're used to going hours.
They'll take a train somewhere.
West Virginia is beautiful. Enjoy the scenery. Okay, so we're going to give it to the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
At the end of the day,
still number one. I think it is
what we thought it would be, and I think we kind of use some reasoning behind it that's logical.
So who loses their prestige? Who has to drop the word world?
All right, we're gonna put these all in order now after we've kind of gone through it all. So
worst
now
to best, or vice versa?
really quick. So it's beast trifecta. We're gonna go down. We're gonna go best to worst. So now world's toughest versus Havar sprint.
WTM.
Bar.
I think that I just kind of like loathe that whole situation. So I'm going WTM.
WTM. All right. Fair.
Then the sprint. Okay, the sprint is fourth. From there we have
FISO 3K,
right? FISO 3K versus I kind of screwed this up. No, it is just FISO 3K, I think is what is next.
What it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then FISO. Okay, now we have a loser's bracket for the bottom two. For the bottom four, I should say. Spartan 50K versus OCRWC 3K.
That's a really good comp.
Morzine, yeah, they're good player comp.
I like Morzine a lot more than OCR 3K.
I'm okay with that.
But at this point, historically, that's a shame. But
yeah,
it's
historically, yes, historically, right. That would be hard to kind of. But since OCR is not even gonna be there, FISO 14K versus OCRWC 15K.
FISO.
It's gotta go FISO at this point.
FISO.
OCR is getting dumped on by us right now, but they're also leaving for a year.
They've just been it's just been so poor, and just like the people that were even needing to say world championships behind that is just like, what are we talking about? Morzine versus FISO 14K. What are we going to care about more? Just like in our guts.
Probably Morzine honestly, I'll go FISO. I think it's a better representation of not just Spartan style racing. You don't have much of that anymore.
I'll give that. Even though I think Morzine's a cooler event.
Yeah.
The event is better, but it's not a world championship in its current format.
You had some of the best athletes in the world willing to travel without any prize money offered for that. And it's a different offering where it's mandatory, or I guess the band system, whatever it is. But it's everything else is Spartan at this point. So I think that might be the best alternative out there at the moment.
And then finally, OCR 3K versus OCR 15K. OCRWC, I should say.
Probably the 15K is better, just because more obstacles. That's kind of the standard distance throughout all the years. Some people skip the 3K.
And 3K can be like a crapshoot.
Yeah,
like the way that it's run.
Better watching.
I love it, but it's less prestigious.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But if this was like 2021 when you had VJ versus Kempson versus Sean versus Rat, like you had everyone showing up and Atkins, then it's like, oh, that might be one of the higher events on this list. So it's just drops so far.
So the OCRWC 3K is the least important. So we will call that no longer a world championship. But we don't even have to cover that this year, which is great. And the 15K, same thing. They are the bottom two of importance on our list. Then Spartan, Morzine 50K, FISO 14K, FISO 3K, Spartan Sprint, World's Toughest is third most important, Spartan Trifecta is second, and the Beast still reigns supreme. Most important OCR World Championship event that we can say. So are we just going to say one? Or are we only going to talk about the Beast as a world champion? Everything else we're just going to call a race, an important race, a major.
I think there's room for a Spartan World Championship and a non-Spartan World Championship.
So that would be, I think, FISO 3K and Spartan Beast. I think that those are two opposing sides. I don't think that that's a bad call.
Is World's Toughest Mudder just like the
its thing? It doesn't event. Need our blessing.
Yeah, that's
it exists in its own world.
It's never had the word championship associated with it. It's just been World's Toughest Mudder.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that the Beast and the FISO 3K can be what we consider world championships this year.
All right.
If this was KFM, you're killing one, you're murdering one. Like you can only save 3 here. Which 3 are you saving? I think it's those 3 and Trifecta are the only options. And Trifecta is not a world championship. I think it's the Spartan Trifecta Championship. It's definitely a championship, It's definitely not a world championship.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think championship can be used anytime you're crowning someone the best of what the thing is that you're doing. But world needs to be earned. And I think the athletes have spoken for FISO. It has replaced OCR Worlds. I think that 3K has earned a world status event.
2 years of it, and then going to Europe, it should have a strong showing this third year. Is it kind of like boxing where like you have the best pound for pound fighter, but you've got all the different divisions that kind of have their own championship within it?
So kind of and everyone knows that the boxing championships suck. Like there's too many of them.
They've got too many of them, actually.
This is a good parallel.
This is great.
Boxing and OCR. Yeah. Same. All right, I think we did it.
So who gets world on their title? Just those two?
The Beast
Basilico and Elisa. And then you said the 3K.
They go Steen.
There are 3K winners, right, on the women's side.
They sorted that out. That was only
they did.
Well, Ulrike ended up double winning that weekend. And then I think was it Stein who won the 3K or Yessa?
I thought it was Stein.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was on that carried him through the power rankings pretty much throughout the whole year.
Yep.
All right, we did it. Anything else?
Let us know in the comments. Do you agree with us?
Let us know. All right. Talk to you soon.